Okay, good evening, everyone. Just a few rules to read off here. This is a web-based meeting, so we're operating under the following procedures. The session is being audio recorded just like every other inland wetlands meeting. We're also video recording the proceedings today. To ensure sound quality, I ask that you remain on mute unless you're speaking or presenting. Applicants and members of the public should have their video off. And we don't have any public hearings scheduled for tonight, so I'm going to skip reading all of that part of the rules, and I'll turn it over to you, Rich, to start the meeting.
Okay. Let's see, there's a call to order and a roll call. I see that Peter Chalecki and Singh are here. With myself, that's enough to make a quorum.
Yes, I'm here.
Yep, Pete Chalecki's here.
Okay, very good. Do I hear a motion to approve the meetings of the minutes of meeting from November 5th?
Pete Chalecki, motion to approve.
Is there a second? Singh, would you like to unmute and second?
Yes, I wasn't present.
Oh, that's true. Okay, then I will second the motion. All in favor, please state your name.
Saying aye.
Pete, aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so moved. Communications?
I actually don't have anything for you tonight.
Okay, and there are no public hearings. That brings up old business, IWWCC number 20-16, the Sherman Street Bridge. Tonight, we will hear from the applicant. You can have questions, and then we'll have to decide whether or not this is a significant activity and whether or not it needs a public hearing. So is it John or Pat or Dan, you going to introduce the project?
Yeah, John's going to present. I'm going to switch the screen to the PowerPoint, and John, you can unmute and just let me know when to switch the slides, and I'll do that for you. Can everyone see the slides? Just check.
Yes, Rich, yes.
Yep.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Rich.
Well, my name is John Wengel. I am from WMC Consulting Engineers. We're the engineering firm that was hired by the city to do the design services for the Sherman Street bridges. So this presentation is for the Inland and Wetlands Watercourse meeting for today. And the state project number is 100259. So as I was mentioning, we have two bridges. State bridge numbers are 03797 and 04047. And they're both over the Yantic River in Norwich. Dan, could you please go to the next slide, please? This is an aerial view of the overall project location. Up to our left, you'll see the two bridges that cross the Yantic River. You also see where the Upper Falls Heritage Park driveway is, the dam that's just downstream also. Next slide, please. This is just a blow up of the intersection and the bridges that we're going to be working with. Next slide, please. The existing bridge 03797 was a steel and concrete beam bridge built in approximately 1920. There was some reconstruction work in 1964. Currently based in the DOT inspection report, the superstructure in serious condition, the substructure condition is in poor condition. In 2017, the city did some repair work to the superstructure, and currently the bridge is hydraulically inadequate. Next slide, please. The larger bridge, 04047, is a steel beam bridge constructed in 1955, and some reconstruction work was in 1988. The superstructure is currently in poor condition. Substructure condition is satisfactory. This bridge is also hydraulically inadequate. Next slide, please. The project is within our FEMA, within a FEMA 100-year floodplain. The FEMA discharge is 11,530 CFS. Upstream of the bridge, the 100-year elevation is 78 feet, and downstream it is 77 feet. So currently, the 100-year floodplain overtops the road, mostly in the vicinity at Asylum Street. Next slide, please. So our overall project plan is to reconduct about 1,030 feet of roadway on both Asylum and Sherman Street, and of course the 2 bridge replacements. And if you look at the plan here, you'll see the yellow represents the area of roadway reconstruction. The orangish color are concrete, such as sidewalks and the bridge structure. And we have the cut and fill limits in a greenish and a brown color, and of course the watercourse. If you note here, the existing 04047 bridge, which is at the intersection of Asylum, we are actually trying to shift that alignment slightly to the north to create a more of a T intersection with Asylum Street. Now we'll improve the turning radius out at the site. Next slide, please. So I'm going to start with 03797. The proposed construction for this project is to be a full replacement. We are going to replace the bridge with a 54-foot clear span precast concrete arch. We are going to remove the existing pier to bedrock or 1 foot below grade. If you notice from that previous picture, there is a large pier and portion of the bridge, and it's probably about 10 to 12 feet wide, and it goes to about maybe 2/3 of the way of the road. The upstream portion was that reconstruction portion, which spans the entire river. We are going to increase the out width from 32 feet to 60 feet. And when we get to the section, you'll see where that large increase comes from. Over the roadway, we're going to be providing 2 12-foot lanes, 2 4-foot shoulders, and a 5-foot sidewalk. And we'll be moving the sidewalk from the northerly side to the southerly side. We are founding the bridge on bedrock, so embankment protection for scour will not be necessary. Our plan for the channel is to maintain all the existing grades, and where we remove the pier and any disturbance to the channel for excavation of the abutments, we are planning to stockpile that existing material. And I'll get a little farther in the presentation. The site, historic mill work and factory work on the Yantic River has polluted the river. A lot of the sediment's polluted. So a lot of the material that we'll be excavating from the site, both in the river and the embankments and the roadway, is contaminated soil. All that material will be taken off site, tested, reused if possible, and either disposed of properly. So if we can reuse it, we'll reuse it. If we dispose of it, it will be moved off site, disposed of properly. My understanding right now is a lot of the stream bed sediments are contaminated, and we most likely won't be able to reuse the existing material. But in the contract, we have an item called supplemental stream bed material, which is designed to replicate what's out there, the type of material that's in the stream bed. So if we need additional material, which I believe will be the case in this project, we have a contract there or a specification there to have the contractor put natural stream bed material back in the stream. Next slide, please, Dan. So this will be as a picture of the elevation and section view. So elevation-wise, as I mentioned, we have a precast arch, and it's founded on bedrock. Now, I just want to make one note here. To the right of the screen, we had a foundation that for the abutment that seemed pretty deep. That has been altered. We went with the scour analysis at the site, and that has been removed. So that actually footing is no longer there. It's actually going to be brought up to the elevation similar to the other side. As you can see in the middle of the stream, we are removing that pier. We're going to be replacing it with stream bed material. And also at both the abutment sides, we'll be replacing that with stream bed material. That line there is the ordinary high water elevation where we're showing that's typical spring flooding. Every time it floods, ordinary high waters, what we delineate the watercourse boundary by. The section down on the bottom there is just an overview of what the top of the apex of the arch will look like. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have the roadway and the shoulders and the sidewalk. Then we'll be spanning the area with new proposed guide rail. And then the structure will extend out beyond that, and our slopes will go down to 2 head walls on both sides. Next slide, please, Dan. Bridge 04047 will be a full replacement with a 98-foot clear span precast northeast deck pole T-beam. Similarly, we have an existing pier, which we are going to remove to bedrock, or at least 1 foot below grade. Our substructure will be founded on bedrock. We are increasing the overall out-to-out width from 33 feet to 41 feet. We are providing 2 12-foot lanes, 2 4-foot shoulders, and a 5-foot sidewalk. This structure is also be founded on bedrock, so scour protection along the embankments will not be necessary. Our goal is really to maintain the existing channel grades along the installation. We do have some cut material that we're taking out of the river left, where there's a lot of sediment deposits. We're going to open that up to improve hydraulics. And the same thing with the existing stream bed material. We plan on reusing it or providing a supplemental material for material that we cannot reuse. Next slide, please. This will be as an elevation section view of our 04047 bridge. As you can see in the center there, we'll be removing the pier. Again, the water elevation is quite high for ordinary high water as opposed to normal flows. I don't know if any of the commission members have been out to the site, but the water fluctuates quite drastically due to the downstream dam, which is one of the reasons why the bridge overtops. It causes backwater effects. So it frequently will flood to this elevation and then recede down to a much lower elevation. In this case, most of the flow of the river stays over on the left side of that elevation view and that lower Thalweg part of the channel. Below that, we have a section view. So this is what our bridge is going to look like. Those bulb T beams will be installed across the watercourse. It'll be a clear span, so we'll remove the pier out of the watercourse, prevent debris and things from backing up, and also improve the hydraulics. Next slide, please, Dan. Excuse me. This construction staging for both bridges is will be 2 years, but our first year we are planning to replace bridge 03797. So we're going to close Sherman Street. We're going to install our water handling cofferdams in that secondary channel. We're going to maintain flow in the large channel. We'll install our bridge and wing wall footings and the bridge itself, the wing walls. We're trying to use a lot of precast elements in this project because we really want to move as fast as possible and get the roads reopened for the wintertime. There's also a lot of utilities that we'll be dealing with, which during the first season, we'll be doing a lot of utility work on Asylum Street. And we'll be doing that the first year. So after we put the bridge, we're going to complete portions of the Sherman Street roadway and put a temporary roadway in and reopen the bridges for the winter season. Next slide, please. So the first year, this is what we'll be proposing. We have a cofferdam system, both upstream and downstream, or excuse me, a water handling system. Now, as I mentioned before, the water backs up from the dam. And so for our temporary design storm, we have a very large water handling system. Now there's bedrock there. So this is most likely going to be a large stack of sandbags or large super sacks that they use to keep the water from flooding the site. And all that water is going to be, which primarily goes to the west of this project in most of the circumstances. But when the water does rise, this site will be dry. And then we're going to construct everything in the dry between these cofferdams for this bridge. Next slide, please, Dan. The next year, we're going to come back and we are going to work on the 04047 bridge. Now, this bridge is due to the span length and the access, or we're going to maintain traffic on Asylum Road. So we have a little bit of limitation of the contractor's work. So we're going to install our temporary cofferdams along the western abutment. And then when we get to the slide, the next slide, we'll see that we're going to maintain traffic in the northbound direction. We'll be able to enclose the site, and provide access to the contractor from a portion of the existing bridge. So we're going to maintain the flow channel. We're not going to cut the channel off. We are and we're going to construct a superstructure. Let me go back a second. After we complete abutment 1, which would be the western side, we are going to then remove the other span and construct the eastern abutment. If you go to the next slide, please, Dan. So this is the stage 1 of the second year. As you can see, we are going to encircle the entire site with a cofferdam system so we can do the excavation work and all the installation of precast units and the abutment. If you notice there's a small hatched area on the existing bridge. That is the westerly span. We are going to remove that. So the contractor will go in there, put a debris shield in there, remove that portion of the superstructure. We would like to retain the eastern portion of the bridge so the contractor has a work platform for cranes and other things that he may use to be able to access that site, because like I mentioned, traffic will be maintained on Asylum, limiting the contractor's space. Now, if you notice, to both the north and south end on Asylum, we have these small earth retainage systems. That will be for access for construction equipment to get in and out of that confined area. Next slide, please, Dan. So after we construct that, we'll plan to come back with, I guess, our 2B or our second stage. And we're going to put a shallower cofferdamming around that pier. So we'll remove the eastern span of the superstructure, and then we'll remove the pier. Now, that's not anticipated to be a very long stage. So we have just a very, a much shallower, or sorry, not as high cofferdam system to keep the water in the fallway portion of the channel. After that's complete, we will be putting an enclosed cofferdam system around our proposed abutment. That will also include our existing abutment, which is there in a lighter gray. And that will give the contractor a place to work in the dry to remove the existing abutment and then install the new abutment. When that's complete, they'll be able to backfill as necessary, remove that cofferdam, and then we'll move into where the crane stage is and installing the beams and then completing the roadway work and the guide rail and bridge rail and the sidewalks, and then finally with paving. Next slide, please, Dan. So this is our wetland and watercourse impact plan. There is a significant amount of impacts. We have close to 20,000 square feet of impacts, both temporary and permanent. Most of our permanent impacts will be along the embankments, and you can see those there in the blue, which would be the permanent watercourse impacts, and pretty much where we're going in, and we're going to be disrupting the channel bed and grading. So we're trying to restore the natural portions of the channel, but it is a permanent impact in the watercourse. And similarly with the orange, the permanent wetland impacts, we're going to be grading those portions of the wetland along the embankments for the walls and at the corners of the wing walls. Next slide, please, Dan. So we're looking at about 0.46 acres of state and federal impacts. We have anticipated that our local inland wetland permit. We've also met with the Army Corps and DEP. So at this point, we know that we need a pre-construction notification from the Army Corps, and we will also need a PCN 401 water quality certification from the DEP. There's a flood management certification that just goes through the CONDOT MOU process. That will be a flood management permit through the state. Next slide, please. Currently, this project is over about $14.6 million. There's some federal, state, and city funding, 80% federal, 10% state, and 10% city. We are right now we're on track for a spring 2022 construction. Like I mentioned before, it'll be a 2-year project, so we have a 20-month duration with 1 winter shutdown. Next slide, please, Dan. As most of you know, Pat McLaughlin and Brian Long from the city, they're contacts for the city of Norwich. Myself and Jay Costello are representing the town as their consultants, and our contact information is there if you want to ever reach out to us and ask any questions. Next slide, please, Dan. So that's my presentation. I'd be happy to answer or go over anything that you may have or questions you may have.
John, I take it by widening the channel by some 40 feet, what you're hoping to do is lower the river level at peak?
Oh, we're not necessarily opening the width of the channel as increasing the length or the width of the bridge and the roadway over that second channel. Our hydraulic improvements are going to come from raising the profile of the road. I guess I didn't mention that, but we will be raising the intersection of Asylum and Sherman Street by approximately 15 inches. So by making those improvements, we're going to be putting the 100-year watercourse or water surface elevation underneath the bridge. Now, we're not totally going to remedy the flooding that Asylum Street experiences. There will still be some flooding to the north of the intersection, but what we're trying to do is keep the bridge from overtopping.
Okay. How long would you say the road is going to be closed in that first year?
Sherman Street will most likely be closed for the whole season, eight months.
And that's the bridge both directions?
Yes. So
Okay.
we're going to have Asylum Street open, and then at the end of the first year, we have to pave. So probably paving will have to be complete by end of November, early December, the latest, depending on the temperature and the construction. But we want to put a temporary road in, reopen that road for the winter time, and then back in the spring, go back to closure.
And when do you anticipate the remaining permits?
Well, right now we're working on the inland wetlands permit. We just went through a bunch of meetings with the DOT and the Army Corps. So now we're at the point where we're going to, after our inland wetlands meeting, we were going to start applying for our FMC permit, which we've already submitted, but they review it. They make comments on all the reports, hydraulics, scour, floodway. We rectify all those comments, and we'll be resubmitting along with our Army Corps permit, along with our FMC and our DEP permits. So we're in that process right now of going back and making the comments that DOT has made. We'll fix up all those comments, make all the corrections necessary, and then we'll proceed with getting those permits.
Peter, do you have any questions for John?
John, Pete Chalecki here. Is it known what is in the sediments? You said that there was a type of contamination found in the...
Yes, I'm not an expert on this, but I do know we did what they call a 210, which is an investigation where we had a contractor go out there and do soil samples and borings all around the project site. They test that material, and there's a list of materials. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I know there's like heavy metals and things that are pretty much associated with a lot of industrial and mill work on the river. And historic, a lot of the rivers are polluted with these sediments. So especially in a river like the Yantic, which has a lot of history to it, dams and factories.
Yeah, it sure does.
So I don't have a list per se, but I do have information. I know the city has that test 210. If you're interested, you can get a copy and see what kind of, heavy metals and the things that are in there. Like I said, I'm not an expert on it. So.
Right. I didn't see that information was posted with the current lists of applications and all the data on the city server, but I'll check again. And you said that bridge, the bridge deck would be raised by 15 inches, or the bottom of the beams to the level of the high water, median would be 15 inches higher than it is now. Is that what?
Yes, the intersection of Asylum and Sherman Street, we are going to raise 15 inches. From that intersection, we'll be sloping up as we go up Sherman Street. So we will be raising that road more than 15 inches across on Sherman Street. We'll be raising. I'm just at the intersection, we have 15 inches, excuse me.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, and then that will tie into, as if you've been out to the site, as you know, Sherman Street goes uphill as you leave the river. It starts to go up street. So we're going to raise the intersection and then continue on an upward slope towards Sherman Street to the east.
Understood. Thank you.
Yep.
Robert McCoy, do you have any questions? Unmute your microphone. All right, well, Bob thinks about that. Singh, do you have any questions?
I just have one positive comments. I think that increasing that turning radius is really helpful, especially at the location, because I pretty much go there every day. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness for that.
And we're going to do quite a good improvement there at the turning radiuses, and just by teeing it up, and we're going to actually, I don't, it's kind of hard to tell on this plan, but we're going to do a little cantilever work at that abutment 1 along Sherman and Asylum Street, and that's actually going to prove it very, 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 very good. And if you've noticed, there's also a 3-way stop sign out there now.
Yep, the one that
we're going to maintain after the bridges, and that's my understanding is that's working pretty well currently.
The one with the lights.
Yes.
Yes, flashing lights.
Yep. We're going to maintain that. So when construction's done, we're going to have that, that back in place. We also putting in new crosswalks and handicap accessible ramps. So we're going to make some improvements to the sidewalks too.
Great.
Dan, I know that you made 12 recommendations in the memorandum dated 12/1. Is there anything else that you or Pat would like to tell us?
I don't have any further comments. I just ask that, as always, you include the bullet points from the memo in your motion, but they're all pretty standard. I defer to Pat if Pat has anything further to add.
No, I think John covered it pretty well. I mean, this project's been a long time in the making. We've been working on it for a while, so there has been a lot of thought put into it, and we're finally getting close to construction, closer.
That was a very good presentation, PowerPoint presentation. Thank you. Gentlemen, what we have to determine is whether or not this is a significant activity. If anyone has any thoughts, beginning with Peter.
Does the amount of disturbance delegate, does that have any bearing in the public hearing part of it? Rich, do you know?
Dan is, I believe the Army Corps has a what can I say, a minimum?
Yeah, I would just add that the city and DOT already hosted a public information session previously. I can't remember when it was. I don't know if, Pat, you have that information. I think it was within the last year.
Yeah,
so
I think
between that session and tonight, I think the city's done public outreach, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a little over a year ago, I believe.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay, Robert, do you have any comments?
Well, I don't think there's that much disturbances. Every storm seems to be a big disturbance there, I guess, from the amount of sediment moving and everything.
Singh, do you have any comments whether or not this is a significant activity?
No, I don't really see that as significant, so
Okay, so we need a motion whether or not this is a significant activity.
Pete Chalecki, I'll make the motion that it is not a significant activity.
Do I hear a second?
saying second.
There's a motion on the table. Please state your name and say yes or no. Peter,
Peter, yes.
Robert McCoy,
Robert, yes.
Singh,
Yes.
any opposed? Hearing none, so moved. So now we need a motion to approve IWWCC number 20-16 Sherman Street Bridge. And the motion should include the 12 bullet point recommendations made by staff and memorandum dated 12/1.
Okay, Pete Chalecki, motion to approve IWWCC 20-16 Sherman Street Bridge with the conditions specified in the, where the bullets are there.
Is in-
Do I hear a second?
I'll second and incorporated by reference to the bullet points. Yeah.
And you are?
Bob McCoy.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. It's been seconded. All in favor, starting with Peter,
Peter, yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Singh.
Yes.
Motion has passed. New business, Dan?
I don't have anything new. I would just note that I've got a couple administrative approvals coming in for septic system replacements. That's it.
Yes. Violations?
Nope, nothing at this time.
So now we need a motion to adjourn.
Peter Chalecki, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second Singh.
All in favor, starting with Peter,
Peter, yay.
Robert,
Yes.
Singh.
Yes.
Thank you, Pat, John, Catherine, Dan. Have a very good evening. Stay healthy. See you next year.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
night,
you.
everybody.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Commission.
You're welcome.